Hello, everyone. Thank you for taking the time today to join us for our webinar, Understanding LIS Compliance and the 7 Steps to Achieve Compliance. I am Molly McCoskrie, and I'm with BC Solutions. In a moment, I will be introducing our presenter, Sudha Pusa. But while we wait, I'm just going to give a few more minutes. There's people logging on. So during that time, I'll cover a few housekeeping tips. We expect this presentation to last about 30 minutes because we know your time is valuable. Everyone who is logged into the webinar will be in listen-only mode, so your microphones are automatically muted, and this helps keep down the background noise. As Sudha goes through her presentation, she will try to allow time for those of you who are taking notes, but please know that we will send you out a copy of the slides that she's using immediately following this webinar. So you will get a copy of what is on the screen. We are also recording this webinar, so it will be available on our website in about a week at bcsolutionsrfn.com. The last item that I'll cover before we begin is how to submit any questions that may come up regarding this presentation. It is we'll be attempting, like I said, to keep this at about half an hour, so we won't answer any of the questions live on the webinar. Feel free to use the questions feature on GoToWebinar to send those to us, or you can email me directly at the email address that I'll put up on the last screen. I will get those questions to Sudha, and we will respond to you as quickly as possible. I think that about takes care of all of the fun stuff. One more reminder for those of you who I see just logged in, we will send out a copy of Sudha's slides before the end of the day. So if you are writing quickly to get down something that's on the screen, please know we'll send you that copy immediately. So with that, I would like to introduce today's presenter. Sudha Pusa works for BC Solutions as an LIS consultant specializing in LIS implementation. Over the past several months, she has been commissioned to research and write a white paper that would provide a clear look at LIS compliance. Once that paper was completed, we invited her to create today's webinar that would focus on 7 steps that are most critical when creating a compliance program. Sudha is passionate about the topic she's going to cover and is a valuable resource for our team. Sudha, I will turn the presentation over to you.
Thank you, Molly. Hello, everyone. I'm Sudha Pusa. I'm happy to be presenting today's webinar about laboratory information systems compliance. I have been working in the healthcare IT domain, specializing in the laboratory space for quite a while now. I have enjoyed working and learning through the many roles that I've played related to LIS implementation, upgrades, optimization, integration, and compliance. It is my goal today that this webinar offers information to help you navigate the current regulatory landscape as it applies to the clinical laboratory that you work in. We will start with a brief introduction for the many regulatory bodies governing labs today. Then we will take a look at the 7 key steps you should focus on in order to achieve compliance. Finally, we will try to put it all together so that you have a quick way of reviewing these steps and their effectiveness in your lab. Introduction to clinical laboratories and regulatory bodies. We all know clinical laboratory testing plays a pivotal role in quality healthcare delivery. Test results guide more than 70% of all medical decisions made by healthcare providers. Let's start by making sure we understand the difference between regulations and accreditation. Regulations are mandatory, such as those enacted through federal laws. Failure to comply would result in penalties. Accreditation, on the other hand, is voluntary, and having it is considered an indicator of high quality and excellence. On this slide, you see the familiar logos of the agencies that are most influential in determining the regulations and accreditation that govern labs. First and foremost, FDA. In the context of a lab with blood collection center or transfusion services, the Food and Drug Administration protects and enhances the public health through regulation of biological products, including vaccines, therapeutics, related drugs, and medical devices. FDA also ensures the safety, purity, and potency of blood products, as blood is subject to both biologics and drug regulatory oversight. CLIA. Congress passed the Clinical Laboratory Improvement Amendments to establish standards for all laboratory testing and ensure the accuracy and reliability of patient test results. CLIA serves as the primary regulatory program governing U.S. clinical laboratory testing, and its regulations apply to almost all laboratories performing testing of human specimens for health assessment. HIPAA. The Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act has 5 titles, out of which Title II is the most relevant in this context, as it applies to protected health information, which is also commonly known as PHI. The HIPAA privacy and security laws cover data exchange both inside and outside laboratories. TJC. The Joint Commission is an independent, not-for-profit organization that serves as the nation's predominant standard-setting and accrediting body for healthcare organizations. TJC accreditation focuses on operational systems critical to the safety and quality of patient care. A TJC survey follows tracer methodology. CAP. The College of American Pathologists. This is a medical society that serves physician members and the global laboratory community. It is the world's largest association composed exclusively of board-certified pathologists, and it is the worldwide leader in laboratory quality assurance. Their audits are in the form of peer reviews. AABB. AABB is an international not-for-profit association dedicated to the advancement of science and the practice of transfusion medicine and related biological therapies. AABB's accreditation program contributes to the quality and safety of collecting, processing, testing, distributing, and administering blood and cellular therapy products. As much as I would like to dive deeper into the requirements from each of these laws and agencies, this webinar is aimed at addressing the key steps to achieve overall compliance from an organizational point of view. We would be glad to work with you if there are any questions related to meeting the standards from any of these governing agencies. The 7 steps of compliance. Since the goal of this webinar is to help you create a roadmap to compliance, we will focus on the 7 critical steps in order to achieve compliance and making compliance part of your organizational culture. As you will see, having these ongoing processes in place will ensure compliance is not just achieved, but is fully integrated into your work day to day. In 1998, the Office of the Inspector General issued the Model Compliance Plan to emphasize the importance of each laboratory organization developing and implementing their own compliance plan, taking into consideration its unique compliance requirements and operational complexities. The 7 steps to compliance are listed here, and we will take a closer look at each of these in the following slides. Step 1, implementing written policies, procedures, and standards of conduct. The first step towards ensuring compliance is the development of written compliance policies, procedures, and standards of conduct. These documents are the building blocks for the steps that follow. Once these policies have been approved, they should be reviewed regularly, and a system for amending and revising them needs to be in place. The procedure for making changes should also include maintaining clear revision history, since that will be important for future audits. Current revisions of all policies and procedures should be made accessible to all laboratory stakeholders and personnel. The written policies can be broken down into many sections as shown on this slide. These should also address marketing, self-referral, STARK, and anti-kickback statute violations, HIPAA and high-tech protection, policies and procedures are in place, it is critical that you have a team assigned with maintaining the documents and enforcing their use. In addition to designating a compliance officer, the OIG recommends that a compliance committee be established to advise and assist. The compliance officer oversees the corporate compliance program. This position ensures the board of directors, management, and employees are in compliance with the rules and regulations of the various applicable regulatory bodies and laws. This position is also key to upholding standards of conduct, standard operating procedures across the organization. Some of the roles and responsibilities of the compliance officer are listed on this slide. It is critical to a good compliance program that the compliance officer functions as an independent and objective body that reviews and evaluates compliance issues and concerns within the organization. Just as important to the success of our second step is the compliance committee. They're also responsible in ensuring inspection readiness, and some of their responsibilities are listed on this slide. A benefit of having a committee is the opportunity it offers to involve more personnel in the process. As we all know, one of the best ways to ensure staff understands and follows policies is to get them involved with the processes at all levels. This is especially true in smaller labs where time and resources for training may be limited. With several bigger hospitals and laboratories, I've noticed that this committee is focused not just on compliance, but they include audits and quality as well. Step 3, conducting effective training and education. Proper education and training of personnel are critical to the success of a compliance program. However, when we were searching for a good graphic for this slide, we found that most of them were either dull pictures of classrooms or had a theme similar to the cartoon that we chose here. This emphasizes to us that simply having a training program may make you compliant, but having a great training program will make it effective. So what makes a training program great? Don't assume that because you trained a new hire that they don't need to see or hear the information again. Information that is important should be emphasized and re-emphasized often. Train in both directions. How many times do we train our staff only to have other departments or external leadership contradict that training? Keeping the whole organization on the same page is key. This is where a strong compliance officer comes into play. Communication is of utmost importance. Listen and watch. Keep your eyes and ears open for areas where training should be re-emphasized. Open communication will alert you to when and what your focus should be. Training attendance and competency should always be documented for audit purposes. Training delivery methods can range from classroom settings to web-based delivery as the requirements may be. Moving on to step 4, developing effective lines of communication. This always sounds like common sense, but can be harder to achieve than one might think. All lab personnel should have free access to the compliance officer and compliance committee, and they should be encouraged to approach them when they need additional information or clarification regarding the compliance plan. This open access also needs to apply when personnel need to report and discuss suspected misconduct. Having a lab policy that protects employees who communicate concerns from having their identity disclosed and from any retribution as a result of voicing their concerns should be using the proper channels. The compliance committee should also establish various independent reporting paths for employees to freely report or seek clarification when there is suspected fraud, waste, or abuse. Step 5, conducting internal monitoring and auditing. The best way to know if the compliance program that you have been working so hard on is actually working as intended is to conduct internal audits and monitor key areas on a regular basis. A successful compliance program will require consistent monitoring and reporting to the compliance officer and committee. This monitoring should detect any non-compliance, fraud, and abuse. A schedule should be in place that ensures all compliance elements are being audited during a specific time period. The audit process has gotten a little easier now that most LIS systems have built-in audit trails that can show which user has accessed the system and what steps have been performed. These also form an important resource for monitoring protected health information data flow. Reports of these audits should be kept confidential and maintained by the Compliance Committee. Step 6. Enforcing standards through well-publicized disciplinary guidelines. The last two steps of creating a compliance plan are not as much fun to discuss because they involve the consequences of not following the policies and procedures. In an ideal world, steps 1 through 5 should work so well that you'd never have to discipline because of improper actions. But in the real world, you will need to have well-publicized and consistently enforced guidelines for ensuring compliance. Enforcing policies and procedures through appropriate performance incentives and disciplinary measures are key to the success of the compliance program. Breaches should be dealt with fairly without regard to internal hierarchy. Specific penalties for non-compliance must be clearly articulated, approved by legal counsel, communicated to the Human Resources Department, and consistently enforced. Remember that the training should not only include information on what the expectations are, but also on what to expect if they are not met. Step 7. Swift action against offenses and breaches. The last step deals with what happens when a problem does occur. Failure to comply with federal or state laws and other violations of a lab compliance program should be handled with utmost seriousness. Once you're aware of a misconduct, fraud, or data breach, it is necessary to act quickly in order to protect the mission, reputation, and the legal status of the laboratory, as well as, and most importantly, for patient safety. Begin your investigation into the cause quickly and be as thorough as possible. Depending on the nature of the offense, the investigation may involve internal interviews, referral to law enforcement authorities, corrective action plans, a report to the government, and reimbursement of overpayments, if any. While any action taken as a result of an investigation could vary depending on the lab and the particular situation, the Compliance Committee should strive for consistency by utilizing sound practices and disciplinary protocols. Having a procedure in place for how to handle these situations will make the process easier on everyone involved and will be key in resolving issues quickly and correctly. Putting it all together. So now that we know what steps are needed to ensure compliance, how do we put it all together to create a compliance program that works in your unique environment? Whether you're starting a program from scratch or you're reviewing one that you already have in place, it is important to keep a few key concepts in mind. Always be thorough and consistent. Match your compliance plan to how your lab actually works. At each step, remember to have a policy, follow the policy, review the policy, and know what to do when the policy fails. Include everyone in your organization through training and open communication. And always look for ways to improve. Now, I want to thank you all for your time today. I hope that whether this webinar provided new information for you or it was simply a review of what you already know, this was valuable to you and the work you do in the lab. I will turn the presentation back over to Molly for a reminder on how to submit any questions that you might have. Thank you. Have a great remainder of the day.
Thank you, Sudha. Appreciate your presentation. And again, we appreciate everyone who joined us today. One more reminder that I will send out the slides to everyone in attendance, so you'll have those as notes from the material that she covered. I will also post the recording of this webinar on our website within the next week, so you can look for that online. And if you have any questions for Sudha, please send them to the email address on the screen right now, or you can submit them through the GoToWebinar questions feature, and I will get those to Sudha and we'll get you an answer as quickly as possible. Again, I appreciate the time you took to join us today. We hope the information was valuable, and we look forward to talking to you all again another time. Have a great day. Thank you.